Hello, hockey fans, and welcome as we revisit the final numbers of Paul Coffey, who some of you may know was the first player I covered on this channel. And I thought it'd be good to have a more in-depth look at his final numbers. Those numbers being over the course of 21 seasons, he scored 396 goals, 1,135 assists for 1,531 points in 1,409 games. And that's where we start. Paul Coffey was one of the top 10 all-time leading point scorers in general when he retired early in the 2001 season. He was also the all-time leading defenseman in scoring, but Ray Bourque passed him by the end of that very same season, which was also Bourque's last. Either way, Coffey's 1,531 points is still second all-time amongst blue liners, just 48 behind Bourque. Coffey was just the second defenseman in NHL history at the time to reach 1,000 career points, and is still just one of 8 to do so. Brent Burns is the current active leader with over 900 points, but it does not look anyone anytime soon will be approaching Coffey's numbers. As of Christmas 2025, Paul Coffey's 1,135 assists still ranks 6th best all time, and also behind Bourque in terms of defensemen. He and Bourque are the only two defensemen to reach the mark, and it's likely he will be passed in general, that is, in terms of active leaders, Sidney Crosby, who sits at 1,080. Either way, he is regarded as one of the best passers and setup men of all time. Easy to see why. A master power play quarterback throughout the years, his presence on the extra man advantage has always been key wherever he has played. He sits at 5th all-time with 1,143 power play goals on ice for. 10 behind Ron Francis in 4th, 20 behind the great Gretzky in 3rd, the fellow defensemen Al MacInnis and Ray Bourque are 2nd and 1st all-time in that category. Coffey is 3rd all-time in total goals on ice for, with a massive 3,098. Just a couple shy of 3,100, only behind Bourque and former teammate Wayne Gretzky. Once again, his impact on the ice can never be disputed on any given team he's been on. Coffey's 396 goals is also second best among defensemen as well as Bourque, and he had his fair share of goalie victims as well, 120 as a matter of fact. The man he got to the most was Kelly Hrudey, scoring 14 goals on him, which is actually all the more impressive considering the fact that they only spent a year and a bit playing in the same division. During the time Coffey played in Pittsburgh, that is. Next up is the superbly talented Reggie Lemelin, who allowed 12. Coffey got to him a lot during the Battle of Alberta rivalry, and even a couple times when Reggie played for Boston. Hall of Famer Mike Vernon was next, another victim of the Battle of Alberta, but only part of the way actually, as Coffey also scored a lot against him right up to the year 2000, 11 times overall. And Richard Brodeur of the Canucks. Yes, basically anybody who played for Edmonton in the 80s at least got 10 goals on him. And Coffey indeed does just that. The awesome Mike Liu wasn't so awesome against Coffey, allowing 10 goals. Mostly in a fair bit of his tenure with the Caps, that is, when Coffey was with the Pens. They were division rivals. Steve Weeks allowed 9. Again, impressive as the two never played in the same division. Don Beaupre also allowed 9, quite a few both in Minnesota and Washington, and even one in his short tenure in Toronto. Bob Jancic, a less talented version of Richard Brodeur pretty much, allowed 8. Chris Terreri allowed 8. The Devils goalie was the main target of Coffey's during his time in Pittsburgh. And poor Chico Resch became every star player's whipping boy in the 1980s. Playing with the Rockies/Devils, he too allowed 8. Rounding out the list is Brian Hayward, allowing a lot of goals during his time as a Winnipeg Jet against the Oilers with 8. Out of the 396 goals Coffey scored, here were the top 5 setup men in his career that allowed him to do that. And to the shock of literally nobody, Wayne Gretzky set him up the most, 99 times. I'm not kidding. A quarter of his career goals. Of course, Coffey's best scoring years were with the Edmonton Oilers. Another Oiler teammate, Jari Kurri, comes in a distant second with 54. That's with Kurri and Gretzky, who played together with Coffey during number 7's tenure in Edmonton. And they also played alongside him during his brief stay in LA. And the great Mario Lemieux comes in 3rd with 38 assists to Coffey, as the two worked a lot of matches together during Paul's entire tenure in Pittsburgh. Another Oiler, Mark Messier, is next, coming in 4th with 33 setups. Impressive considering the two didn't play the same amount of games together as much as Gretzky and Kurri did, due to the 2 injury-plagued seasons for Messier in both the 84-85, 85-86 seasons, and even one for Coffey in 86-87. And lastly, coming in 5th, Penguins teammate John Cullen, who really clicked well with Paul when Lemieux was injured, set him up 23 times. But Coffey, of course, is known for his power on assists when it came to his overall production. Let's see who he gave the most to. Well, hey, look, it's Wayne Gretzky. Coffey set him up 119 times. Coffey setting up Wayne for nearly a quarter of the goals he scored with the time they were teammates. Very good. Shows how much Wayne benefited from Coffey as a teammate. And there's Jari Kurri again in second. Coffey helped him out 86 times, again close to a quarter of the goals Kurri scored while the two played together. And hey, Mario Lemieux in third with 72. In the time they were teammates, Coffey assisted on just over a third of Mario's goals in that span where they played together. So when morons say, oh, well, Lemieux had nobody in those 87, 88, 88, 89 seasons, give your head a shake, or better yet, ram it hard against a plaster wall. Anyway, fourth and fifth are, however, different this go-round, as Coffey set up Glenn Anderson of the Oilers. He set up 54 goals in 7 seasons together. And coming in fifth is Kevin Stevens, who Coffey set up 45 times. As KS was emerging as one of the top wingers in the league with the Penguins, and Paul really helped him hit his stride. Well, wow. That is actually over a third of what Stevens scored in that time span. Now, who did Paul, however, team up with, help set up some of those big guns? Well, holy crap, big shock, it's Wayne Gretzky. The all-time assist leader with Coffey teamed up to set up 133 goals, 130 of them coming in Edmonton. Mario Lemieux, again, they were just pure magic at making plays once again. The magnificent one comes in second at a distant 74. And hey, there's Jari Kurri again, this time in third, as the two could read each other perfectly on a given rush. And coming in fourth, however, is the only one from the Red Wings to make any of these lists, and that's Steve Yzerman. These two are utterly insane together and don't get enough recognition, as Bowman utilized Coffey and Yzerman the way that Bowman would utilize Larry Robinson and Jacques Lemaire in Montreal. An impressive 45 collaborations in 4 seasons. 3 of them full seasons. And coming in fifth, the Messiah, Mark Messier with 36. Yeah, you could say Coffey benefited playing alongside the all-time greats, but many of them would just as well tell you, and many of them have stated publicly, that they benefited from having Coffey as one of their teammates. In Coffey's career from 1980 to 2000, he entered a 21-league team. By the end of it, he was playing in a 30-team league. His 1,531 points, he scored against 28 of them. Although I should point out in context, while he retired in a 30-team league, he actually never got to play the Columbus Blue Jackets, and only played the Minnesota Wild once. The most points he ever scored in a career against a single team is against the original Winnipeg Jets, later Phoenix Coyotes, with pretty much all of them coming against the Jets portion. 114 total. He tortured his division rivals in his years with the Oilers, and even a bit with Pittsburgh. Then it's the hated Alberta rivals of the Oilers, the Flames, where he notched 107 points against. The Canucks are just behind a 105 ever, and the Kings were actually the least of the Smythe Division rivals he scored against, and some would argue they had the least success in that decade, with 99 points. During his time with the Pens, however, he was incredible against division rival Rangers with 83, and he definitely sunk the island, that is, in Long Island, with 78. While the Caps fell behind with 76. The Devils were next with 72, but even more than them, however, the Minnesota North Stars / Dallas Stars fell victim Coffey's points 73 times. He was only division rivals with them during his tenure in Detroit, but also played very well against them during the 80s with the Oilers. He also got to hated rivals the Flyers, less than any of the Patrick Division rivals, with 68 points. But again, as you can see, he got to Chicago just one more time than them. 69 times, that is. Same thing as the Stars, only division rivals for a few seasons with the Red Wings, but again, he played very well against them in the same conference in the 80s. He was never in the same division as the old Hartford Whalers, who later, of course, became the Carolina Hurricanes. It was only during his time with Pittsburgh he was in the same conference. He still scored 61 points on them. He also basically owned the Leafs during the Oilers era primarily, with 60 points against them, but also faced them a lot in Detroit. Same thing goes with St. Louis, who he's scored 57 points against. The Quebec Nordiques / Colorado Avalanche, but of course primarily 99.9% of the time, the former, saw Paul get to them somehow 55 times over the years. Speaking of the Red Wings, he lit them up a fair bit in the 80s, 52 times, with total points. Played well against the Habs with 45 points, Sabres with 43, scored 40 points against the Penguins. Surprising considering they were one of the weaker teams of the 80s. You'd think he'd have a little bit more. He scored 39 against the Bruins, who were very strong throughout his career, and his former team, the Oilers, with 35. He had 31 against the Sharks, who only played 10 seasons against, and they were pretty bad for a while. But speaking of relatively young franchises, as we wrap this up, during Paul's latter career, 21 points against the Ducks, 15 against the Lightning, 14 against the Panthers, 13 against the Senators, 5 against the Thrashers, 2 against the Preds, and none of the one game he faced the Wild, and of course he never did face Columbus. Now for the records. Paul Coffey holds the NHL record to this day as of 2025 for goals in a season by a defenseman with 48. Some were thinking he might even reach 50, and it was possible. Set back in 1985-86, where he broke the once thought unbreakable record of Bobby Orr's 46 back in 1974-75. And as you can see, Coffey appears on this list a couple more times. As a matter of fact, he has the third most with 40 in the Oilers' first Cup winning season in 83-84. Then he stays in the top 5 in a three-way tie for 5th with 37, which he scored the following season in 84-85. Another Cup winning year, showing the total from Orr was 70, 71, and 71, 72. Could this record be broken these days? Well, with the game the way it's played today, who knows? But in 2008-09, Mike Green became the first defenseman to score 30 goals in a season since Kevin Hatcher, who you see on this list, did so in 92-93. And just last year, Kellen McCarr, the Colorado Avalanche, was the first player since Green to score 30 in a season. It's certainly not impossible, as we've seen these days, but probably improbable. McCarr, however, would likely be the guy if it were to happen. Oh, and Coffey came so close to beating the NHL record for points in a season by a defenseman. As in that same 85-86 season, he scored 138, just one back of Bobby Orr's 139 in 1970-71. And Coffey, along with Orr, appear on this list 5 times each in this top 10, as our hero scored 126 in 83-84, 121 in 84-85, 113 with the Penguins in 1988-89, and 103 in 1989-90 with them as well. Wow, and that's tied with fellow Hall of Famer Al MacInnis, who did so in 90-91. The only player other than Orr and Coffey to appear here. As a matter of fact, only 3 other defensemen that's not on this list in the top 10 have reached 100 points outside of them. Hall of Famers Denny Potvin and Brian Leetch, and Erik Karlsson, who was the first one since Leetch in 91-92 to score 100 in a season in 2022-23. But it's very much possible again that McCarr could reach 100 one day, as he has reached 90 points or more twice. Coffey also shares a big record again set in 85-86. On March 14, 1986, he scored 8 points in a game, the most by a defenseman, tied with Flyers blue liner Tom Blayden, who set the mark back in December of 77, or held the record before both of them with 7 points in a game back in November of 1973. Several others have reached 6. He also tied the record of 6 assists in a game by a defenseman, which is shared by Orr, Babe Pratt, Pat Stapleton, and Ron Stackhouse, and since then has been equaled by Gary Suter, who actually did so just a few weeks after this very game, Chris Letang of the Penguins, who did so in 2023 in December. Here's some other records Paul Coffey holds. Most short-handed goals by a defenseman in a single season with 9, also set in 85-86. He has led the league in defensemen scoring 8 times. Fastest defenseman to reach 1,000 career points in 770 games. Now we get to that. The fastest defenseman to score 100 points in a season, doing so in 59 games, tying Bobby Orr. His 28-game point streak is the longest by a defenseman. His 2 40-goal seasons are the most by a defenseman. Most 80-point seasons by a defenseman with 8, and the only defenseman to be a end-of-season team all-star with 3 teams, of course, the Oilers, Pens, and Wings. And now we move to playoff time. Paul Coffey, in the 20 full seasons he played, and not counting his ill-fated final incomplete season, only missed the playoffs 3 times. Twice with the Penguins in 1988 and 1990, and the Hurricanes in 2000. He did miss another postseason in 98 with the Flyers, but that was only due to injury. He played in a grand total of 7 Stanley Cup finals, 4 with the Oilers and 1 each with the Penguins, Red Wings, and Flyers. He collected a big 4 Stanley Cup rings, 3 with the Oilers and 1 with the Pens, so he's no stranger to postseason dominance. And as of 2025, he is indeed numero uno. Number one in terms of all defensemen scoring in the Stanley Cup playoffs history, with a total of 59 goals, 137 assists for a massive 196 points in 194 games. His Red Wings teammate and pairing partner at many occasions, Nicklas Lidstrom, was the one who came closest, very close to breaking out, as he sits at 183 in second. Also, he's the all-time Coffey, that is, leading defenseman in goals in the playoffs with his 59, and second in assists with 137, DeBorg's 139. The active leader is Tampa Bay Lightning star Victor Hedman, who's just one back of Chris Pronger and making the top 10 with a total of 120. Very much possible with the way he plays, and if the Lightning can make deep runs in the playoffs in the next few years, he could at the very least get close. Coffey's 196 points as of 2025 ranks 7th all-time among all skaters in the playoffs. As you can see, his Oilers teammates Gretzky, Messier, Curry, and Anderson take the top 4, while former Pens teammate Jaromir Jagr, who had a playoff run with once, ranks 5th. Either way, great company here on this top 10. A combined, between all of them, 34 Stanley Cup rings. Paul Coffey's play in the 1985 playoffs when the Oilers won their second straight cup was truly remarkable, so much so that even former teammate Wayne Gretzky has stated publicly more than once that he felt the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP, which he won, should have gone to Paul Coffey. Either way, Oilers fans in that era certainly haven't forgotten his performance in those playoffs, and his record for a defenseman, 37 points in one postseason, 12 goals, 25 assists total, and as of 2025, still stands. But this one is definitely not impossible or even improbable at all to break, as Brian Leetch fell shy by just 3 points in 94, and just 2 seasons ago that is, Evan Bouchard came close in 2024, while Miro Heiskanen and Kale McCarr have also reached big numbers in the playoffs in recent years too. Coffey still holds the goals record. His assist mark for a single playoff was passed by Evan Bouchard in 2024 with 26. And in terms of all skaters, Coffey's 37 points still ranks 7th best all time for a single season playoff performance. You can see Coffey's teammate Wayne Gretzky is on the list 5 times himself. 3 of those, including Gretzky's record-setting performance in 85, which is ranked number 1, Coffey majorly factored into. The others being his 38 points, which was 6th best for 1983, and his 35 tied for 10th best in 1984. Mario Lemieux in the Stanley Cup they won together in 1991, even though Coffey missed a lot of games, was still a major factor in the 91 playoffs, those early portions. And the man was just tailor-made for playoff action. As now we go to some of his franchise numbers. He is still the all-time leading scoring defenseman by a country mile for the Edmonton Oilers, with 669 points as of Christmas 2025. Former teammates Kevin Lowe and Charlie Huddy are second and third respectively. The active leader is Darnell Nurse in fourth with 314. Now, to be fair, he's in his 11th season. Well, Evan Bouchard, who sits at fifth, has 275. And if he stays an Oiler for a long time, he has the best chance to get to Coffey in range. Also, as of Christmas 2025, still is third all-time in plus-minus for leaders in Oilers history, as of course dominated by the players of those glory years. His plus 275 is only behind Curry's plus 373, and Gretzky's untouchable plus 583. Connor McDavid, as of this video, is a plus 71 as the active leader and currently ranks 9th. Paul Coffey's 440 points as a Penguin remained a franchise record for a defenseman from his departure in 1992 all the way to 2018 when Chris Letang, who is currently still active, passed the mark, and as of this video sits at 791. Now, Coffey still holds the franchise record, as you're probably clued in by now, for single season points by a defenseman for both the Oilers and the Pens. And he also once held that record for the Detroit Red Wings with his 77 points in 93-94, which stood until the 2005-06 season when Nicklas Lidstrom, again former teammate, on the blue line and pairing partner, broke the mark with 80. Coffey's 74 in the 95-96 season still ranks tied for third best with Reed Larson. Now, we get ready for the wrap-up. Indeed, the picture pretty much says it all, but you know what, here goes. 4-time Stanley Cup champion, as I mentioned, 3 other Cup final appearances, as well as 4 President Trophy winning teams he played on for the regular season champions. 3-time Norris Trophy winner as the league's top defenseman in 85, 86 with the Oilers, and 95 with the Wings. He's a finalist 3 other times, and overall got votes 13 times on 21 seasons. Led all defensemen in scoring 8 times, 5 straight times from 82 to 86 with the Oilers. with the Penguins in 89 and 90, and 95 with the Wings. 4-time first-team All-Star in 85, 86, 89, and 95. 4-time second-team All-Star, 3 straight times from 82, 83, 84, and once in 1990. NHL record for goals by a defenseman in a season. NHL record for points in a playoff by a defenseman. Record for points in a game by a defenseman with 8. And shared record for assists a game by a defenseman with 6. And also holds a shorthanded goals in a season record by a defenseman. Top 10 in overall points in a season 3 straight times from 84 to 86. Also 89 and 90 and 95. He was top 10 in assists 9 times, 4 straight from 83 to 86, 3 straight times from 89 to 91, again in 93 and 95. Top 10 in offensive point shares 5 times, 84, 85, 86 and 89 and 95. Top 10 in defensive point shares in 86 and 95. He led the league in total goals on ice for in 90 and 95. Top 10 5 straight times, 82 to 86, 3 straight times from 89 to 91 and 93 and 95. He led the league in power play goals on ice for in 1995. Top 10 8 other times from 82 to 85, 89 to 91, and 93 and 95. Top 10 in plus minus 4 straight seasons from 83 to 86. Votes for the Hart Trophy as league MVP just 4 times. I find that pretty ridiculous. 14 times he played in the NHL All-Star Game, 5 times for the Oilers from 82 to 86, 5 times for the Penguins from 88 to 92, 3 times with the Wings in 93, 94, and 96, and the Flyers in 1997. 196 playoff points is, of course, 7th all-time and first among defensemen. He scored his 1,000th career point on December 27, 1990, and at the time was only the 2nd defenseman to do so. And December 13, 1995, he scored his 1,000 career assists. He played in 1,409 career games and is a career plus 298. Excellent. Now let's look at his international accomplishments. For Team Canada, he won 3 Canada Cups in 84, 87, and 91. Is actually one of 4 players to do so. He played incredibly in the 84 tournament, where he made a key takeaway in his own zone, breaking up a 2-on-1 rush that led to the winning goal in an epic semifinal win against the Soviets. He also represented Canada at the 1990 World Championships and the 96 World Cup of Hockey. And to cap it off, he had his number retired by the Edmonton Oilers and is a member of the Penguins Hall of Fame. He was up to the Hockey Hall of Fame as a no-question first ballot inductee in 2004 and was named as one of the NHL's top 100 players of all time in 2017. And that does it for our final look at Paul Coffey's numbers and what a career it was. Well, he may get criticism for not being a defensive defenseman, which I don't think that's 120% true, and the fact that he spent the last of his career with 5 teams and 5 seasons. But the fact is, he was given his tasks, and regardless of what they may be, he thrived in the role 99.9% of the time. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be doing more in-depth final number recaps on other players I've covered on this channel. Please like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I'll see ya.